For more than a century, moving images have told the story of Buffalo, from its greatest moments in history to its greatest people, to the way we have lived and worked and contributed to the nation in so many ways. The early years of television news gathering in Buffalo set a standard for the nation, and the market is still second to none in capturing the drama of life. But our moving image chronicle of history is now in danger of being lost forever because it is slowly deteriorating on warehouse shelves and in basements.
It's just sitting, and we need to take it and, get it so that people can see it, put it into a format where people will be able to look at it. Hopefully we'll be able to have a facility someday where we'll be able to have people come down, take a look at, the history of Buffalo whenever they want to.
The Buffalo Brdcsters had found a way to warehouse the news film footage of the commercial television stations when they could no longer provide space in their own facilities. Thousands of feet of film, beginning from the 1960s, when Buffalo and the nation went through one of the most dramatic periods of change ever, are now waiting to be rediscovered, and the Buffalo Brdcsters are determined to make it happen.
This is the beginning of the biggest phase of the broadcasters that we've ever had.
In June, the Buffalo Brdcsters brought one of the nation's most prominent moving image archivists, Lisa Carter, to the warehouse on Elk Street to see the collection, examine its condition, and make some early recommendations.
I'd make use of those hand rewinds and some gloves and those viewers and just take a look at what you've got.
Lisa brought 2 graduate students from NYU with her. The task of assessing the collection, categorizing and cataloging its contents, and digitizing the film is daunting. But can it be done?
I think it's real doable. There's a lot of work to be done, but with the support of the community, I think that this could be a really exciting project, and you guys could be real leaders nationwide.
The very next day, representatives from the 3 commercial television stations and public broadcasting in Buffalo gathered to hear what Lisa Carter might recommend. She said through cooperation, significant grant money could be obtained to begin the process of retrieving the archive.
The Buffalo Brdcsters are leading a collaboration here in Buffalo that is really going to make a difference nationally. It's going to make a difference to those grantors, but it's also going to make a difference as a model for other markets.
The initial reaction was favorable.
There's international demand for what we've got sitting at the stations and on pallets. You took out things like Love Canal.
We're all committed, but I think we all want to know how much money it's going to take, how much time and effort.
We need some organization to put together a plan that would have equitable requests from each organization, and that's when we can start really moving forward.
The Buffalo Brdcsters believes the retrieving of the archives can and will be done because preserving and promoting Western New York's rich television and radio history is the very purpose for our existence. They are events that made history in the greater Buffalo area.
Welcome to Buffalo. I don't think so.
I want to know if I'll be able to grow up to be a normal man.
Sometimes capturing the attention of the world and influencing the course of history to come. These events were captured on film and presented to Buffalo audiences on local television newscasts in the 1960s and 70s. What lessons we can learn from our past. But we are in danger of losing these documented, dramatic, and defining moments in our history. The news film is deteriorating, but still capable of being retrieved. The Buffalo Broadcasters Association, which has possession of this precious footage from the 60s and 70s, has begun the process of bringing these moving images to life once again through the Archive Project.
I'm real optimistic that it's going to get done. Everybody who we've talked to about this project is excited about it. When we talk to people about what we can do or how we can do it, they want to jump in, they want to help, they want to be involved.
The material on this tape has been digitized.
Once the film is digitized, it will be accessible through any computer for use by students, television stations, or anyone interested in the way we were back in the 60s.
Click, 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 click. You hear them. You don't have to fast forward. You don't have to move anything around. You have them all side by side.
UB senior research scholar and professor of history and American studies, Michael Frisch, has signed on to help categorize and index the footage that is retrieved.
The idea would be to get this incredible news footage into a form so that anybody, researchers, the public, people at the stations, on a really need-driven basis, as stuff comes up, could get into this huge archive and really find stuff and then be able to pull it out and make use of it.
We signed on. Let's go full speed ahead on this, and let's see how far we can take it.
WIVB-TV General Manager Chris Musial was the first to commit his television station to the project, giving the Buffalo Broadcasters Association the rights to digitize the station's news archive.
We are the video archive. We're the video memory keepers. Nobody else has that. And if we don't do something about it, it's lost.
Buffalo television, as certainly this audience knows, is hugely important in the national frame. This is a collection that is not simply, local material. And Buffalo's role in journalism is not simply limited to serving the local community. It's been noticed, our people have gone on. So what was going on here, particularly in early television, was very important. So this is a collection that really has significance, and I think to approach it in a way that can really turn it into a usable resource both locally and across the world is really a very exciting challenge.
Kemp looks to pass. He's forced to flee the pocket and run for his life.
Perhaps some of Buffalo's most compelling stories have yet to be rediscovered. The Archive Task Force is now seeking grants to begin the journey back in time to better understand who we are as a community. For self-discovery makes us stronger and wiser as we meet the challenges of tomorrow. A vibrant city of light in the mid-1950s. Television had signed on less than a decade earlier, and film cameras were recording life as it unfolded in the bustling Queen City. Who were we back then? What were our dreams and hopes for the future, and the problems we had to overcome at the time? And what lessons can we learn from the past? Many of the answers lie inside these boxes, containing reels and reels of news film that have yet to be rediscovered. But on January 17, 2009, the Buffalo Broadcasters Association began the long journey back in time to retrieve the moving images that help define our city and our region. This is really the beginning of discovery for us. You've entered a giant time capsule for all intents and purposes. Making sense out of this giant time capsule means documenting a warehouse full of broadcast memorabilia dating back to the earliest days of television, as well as every single reel of news film dating back to the 1960s and 70s.
Library number 1201.
The goal is to catalog the contents and make it all available in a digital, computer-friendly format. Some who are volunteering their time were the ones who rescued Buffalo's moving image history from the dumpster when nobody else had the space or desire to store boxes filled with thousands of reels of film.
So thank God that they did. Thank God they were able to. Thank God we got notified about it.
They stored it all in their basements and garages, and even in a warehouse sub-basement.
You know, we had to go through rat droppings in order to get to the film, and we moved it from there to there a couple of different times. But it was all with the hopes of a day like today, where we're going to be able to, you know, finally catalog it and hopefully make use of it.
Make use of it in a place accessible to everyone.
Create a museum where schools could come, people who were doing research, you know, in communications, you know, would have an opportunity to really get, you know, some original material.
Knowing the potential for history coming alive, Western New York colleges and universities have already expressed an interest in getting in on the ground floor.
I think there's an amazing opportunity here for many different disciplines to come together.
Not only is the news content still on the film, but the cultural content is there too. What do the cars look like? What do the people look like? What does Main Street downtown Buffalo look like with 200,000 or 300,000 people roaming around on a Saturday afternoon?
It has to be open and accessible to everybody. And when it's in that, you know, that box, you know, and available on the web in a certain way that we decide to help make that available, everybody has to have access to it.
It's a project aimed at preserving the rich history of Buffalo.
Professional archivists and museum and library specialists from around the country learned of Buffalo's efforts to bring back the news film at a national conference held in the Queen City.
Going back to constitute a history essentially at 3 major stations in what was and remains actually one of the most important media centers in the country of the evolution of television news.
When I heard about this project, I just about jumped out of my seat.
Dr. Ann Radice, who is spearheading a national initiative to preserve treasures like the Buffalo TV news film, happens to be a Buffalonian who believes in the project.
So this is a city that loves life. When you love life, you reach out and you learn. You don't close it, you don't close down.
The Buffalo Brdcsters Association reached out with a 5K run, the first big fundraiser for the archive project. More than 200 people took part. We have a long way to go to reach the finish line, but we're on our way, and we welcome you to join us on the journey.
A little louder, will you please, fellas? A little louder? A little louder. And I'll take suggestions, but it will not take orders.
A 1966 time capsule has been discovered and removed from the cornerstone of M&T Plaza.
We're going to open the time capsule and discover what our predecessors left for us 44 years ago.
It's a small container of artifacts, including currency, and a headline glimpse of the past. Imagine the year 1966 in Buffalo coming alive again with moving images of the past, images on film, news film, covering all aspects of life in the Queen City, from the Broadway market to the late Jimmy Griffin's rise to power in the state Senate.
I'll work along with the party as long as they work along with Jim Griffin and the residents of the 56th district. I'll ask for suggestions and I'll take suggestions, but I will not take orders.
Ironically, the first full year of WBEN-TV's news film collection begins in 1966, and the Buffalo Brdcsters Association, with the blessing of Channel 4, is ready to bring it back to life.
We're close now. All the hard work that we've done over the past, 3 years really is finally starting to see an end to it.
The film itself appears to be in decent condition.
John Walco from the company called Scene Savers will make it happen once the funding is in place. The WBEN-TV news film from 1966 will be digitized and serve as a prototype for retrieving all the news film saved from the 1960s and 70s.
We will transfer the film to a video format, and we're going to be creating digital files from that video format. We're going to be creating an individual digital file from each slug. We'll be adding slates at the beginning to identify each slug.
The other races, they're a little close yet. We don't know from some reports from the towns how they're going to turn out. But in any event, it's a great win for the Democratic people of our city, and we're very confident that come November, Governor Rockefeller and his running mates will be on the losing side.
John Walco met Dr. Michael Frisch for the first time at the South Buffalo warehouse where the news film is now stored. Dr. Frisch and his colleagues at Rand Force Associates will index all the footage, allowing anyone to find exactly what he's looking for, and even more, with the click of a mouse.
So that you can identify a theme. It might be a particular politician, it might be a particular aspect of community, and find those particular places within all these various units where they're talking about that, and then in digital form you go right there.
A push to keep the Queen City's history alive brought 200 runners to downtown Buffalo.
The Buffalo Brdcsters Association's second annual 5K run again raised awareness about the archive project and the next step necessary to make it happen.
Really what we need now is the funding. We've got all the pieces in place. We just need the money to do it.
We believe we are closer than ever now to bringing Buffalo's history from the mid-20th century alive once again, to celebrate our past and to help chart our future.
One of our passions is actually preserving this old content and making it accessible to today's generation.
But what's awesome with, now 50 years later, is we have a record of day-to-day life.
The process has begun. Buffalo's news film from the 60s goes digital, soon showing at a computer near you. Hello, I'm Rich Newberg, privileged to be chairing the Archive Task Force of the Buffalo Brdcsters Association. You know, when I started work at WIVB-TV back in 1978, the era of news film was drawing to a close. Back then, I worked with some of Buffalo's pioneers of news photography, who brought the very first moving images of life in our world into the homes of Western New Yorkers. I'm proud to say we've taken the first major step in bringing those early film stories back to life. A company called Scene Savers is digitizing our film so we can all share in the view of what Buffalo was like in the mid-20th century. And I can assure you, our film is in good hands.
This was a tremendous win.
One of the reasons that collections like the Buffalo Brdcsters Association news films are so important is because they provide a snapshot into our history, local history, regional history, national history, that's actually hidden in back rooms right now.
John, this is 1966, and this is basically what our boxes look like. Scene Savers Division Manager John Walco has personally visited the Buffalo Brdcsters Association Film Archive and believes in our mission to preserve the collection.
Without us doing the type of work that we're doing and working with the BBA, there's a very real chance that this important content will be lost forever.
The challenges for the Scene Savers are great. This news film, shot by WBEN-TV photographers in 1966, has been wound up on these small reels ever since. Here's project manager Susie Niewanner.
It's a little bit kind of like curling ribbon. I mean, imagine something cinched up like that for 50 years. Once it's unwound, it can be a little kind of trouble to deal with.
It is tedious work. Patrick Steele, who, like Susie, preserved film for the Library of Congress, is now examining and securing every frame of Buffalo's priceless old news film.
Doing a physical inspection on the film lets us know what condition the emulsion is, how brittle the film is. If the film is damaged structurally, there are broken perforations or sprocket holes or splices that are starting to pull apart.
Patrick will assemble big composite reels from more than 1,000 small reels from 1966. The prepped film is run through a telecine and transferred to digital media. Telecine operator and colorist Joe Bosom, who fell in love with old movies and archival film as a teenager, finds the 60s news film fascinating.
It's been quite an interesting task, too, because there's all kinds of little surprises in some of this footage.
From nuns producing a childbirth video as a teaching tool for nurses to the work you see here for NASA 3 years before the moon landing, the Buffalo News Film Archive is rich in unique moments in our history, including moments when the eyes of the nation were upon us.
You see presidential candidates, you see presidents, you'll see movie stars, sports figures, all kinds of interesting things that continues to make this job not only challenging but very fascinating.
With the click of a mouse, you too will be able to retrieve the moving image history of the Buffalo Niagara region.
So much history and culture at your fingertips. I mean, from being on a small roll on a shelf, you know, in a storage facility somewhere, to now being accessible. And, you know, I've always said that preservation without access is kind of pointless.
A key word into your computer will give you immediate access to a time and place in recorded history that might have been lost forever. Dr. Michael Frisch of Ranforce Associates knows how to index and categorize large collections like ours once they have been digitized. And he says there will even be links connecting themes.
To us, in the work we're doing, it's all about giving anybody the ability to reach into exactly one of these reels at some point and follow a theme and then find it in another one, find it in another one.
The digitized film from 1966, the first full year of the WBEN-TV collection, will soon be delivered back to the Buffalo Brdcsters Association. We will develop prototypes for all kinds of future projects that may range from documentaries to classroom presentations to museum exhibits.
How sweet it is.
But most importantly, the film will be accessible to the public, fulfilling our mission to bring Buffalo's moving image history to life, so that future generations will know their roots and will appreciate the contributions of Buffalo's broadcasting pioneers.